So I am so excited to have you on, Tiffany, and welcome everyone. Welcome for another installment, another evening of the JUARA webinar, wellness webinars. For those of you who have been on before and who know us, welcome back. Love seeing you on. And for those of you who haven't, let's just get started. And so today we have Tiffany, and she is our lovely guest. We have these JUARA webinars. They are webinars for wellness and sanity. Really, when the pandemic started, we have been much more, here, let's get my screen up. We are normally a beauty skincare line, which we are still, but we believe that beauty is not only skin deep, it's a whole mind and body situation. And that's why tonight is so perfect, because Tiffany and I, we were talking, we feel the beauty conversation has to be expanded beyond just your skin and the way you look, but really about the all and the totality of you and who you are, and how you feel and how you feel about yourself. So a little bit about JUARA. We are an Indonesian inspired skincare line made in the USA, based on jamu, which is an ancient health tradition of health and wellness. It's like super juices that you drink and stuff that you put on your skin. So what perfect time now when we're thinking about taking care of our health, because it's also a holistic line that thinks about your mind and body. Health is so much about nourishing your self entirety, and healing is such a part of health and a part of beauty. So again, perfect topic today, and a belief in mindful rituals. So this is, going to self-awareness, and self-love, but rituals, they add meaning to our life, and we want life full of peace and happiness. Objective of these webinars, while we do it, is really to connect to the community. We kind of feel that social distancing, even though now we're starting to open up again, is not emotional distancing. And even still, we should always feel like we're connected to people that we care about, and also feel connected to the entire community, even if we don't know who they are or necessarily agree with them, but just being open to just connection is important. And we offer valuable content. So everything you hear, we've curated, so only people who we think really are awesome and add so much value and are so generous at heart. That is so key. Authentic, generous people. That's what we love. And it's really a platform for presenters. So those people who want to actually present, you can come talk to us about it. So today we have Tiffany. Tiffany is a very successful screen actress, and her, gosh, you could see her IMDb bio and all the cool things that Tiffany, that you've done. But the great thing is, I just want to highlight the latest has been she's one of the stars in VH1's hit series Girls Cruise, and also the president of the Mentari organization, an organization near to dear to both of us. It's a nonprofit organization started by Chandra. And Chandra, I see you on. Hi, Chandra Wolwarunku, to help mentor and empower survivors of human trafficking and domestic violence. So we'll just jump on the talk right now, and also just share one thing of why today is so special. It's not like any other webinar. We're collaborating together to support and educate the community and to help people, the survivors who are actually affected greatly by the pandemic, anything from job loss, basic needs. People in the Mentari Foundation, their clients or survivors, they need support. And so we're donating a part of our sales to them. And so this is just a giving collaboration. And as Tiffany,
so not to totally cut you off, I also want to add in that this isn't the first time JUARA has blessed us with, giving back. I want to honor you and thank you on behalf of Mentari, because we always use your house for our Soul Saturday events in New York. Meta has an amazing space, and she so freely gives to us. So as you've given to us, like, this webinar is something that we can give back and collaborate on. And really, this is what this new world is about, is community. And the fact that you've given to us so freely for years, like, thank you. And thank you for creating this webinar. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiffany. Well, without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to you. And I will start with a question, and you can answer it how you will, but just to share your story and how this
This is
topic today.
the time to dance
It's the
first.
time.
Wait, first of all, we have to let people know, like, please grab a pen and paper. We would love to, yes, we are the ones talking right now, but you are never muted. The chat room is there. And also, as things are activated within you throughout this, please write them down. So, we will give you time to get a piece of paper and pen or multiple papers while we talk.
Yes. So I'll start with the first question, just to for those of us who are maybe new to these webinars or new to you or new to Mentari, we'd love to hear your story of how you got involved with Mentari, and also why this topic is you, especially as an actress. I mean, that's big. Your journey of how you were so, I guess, into what you do right now, and especially in this whole conversation and talk of self-love.
Yeah, well, I think it's really beautiful. We're at this beautiful time, right, where we are all in isolation. And so within that, we are isolated with ourselves. We have time to think and observe the things that we are thinking about. And so I had one of those moments years ago where, as an actor, I was doing the same roles over and over again. And I had to ask myself, like, this is, and I don't know about you, but that was definitely one of the moments in my life where it was not what I thought it was going to be. Right? We all have these big dreams. And I used to think that way. And it's okay, because it's expanded me of, okay, well, if I get that role, then I will feel like this. And literally it was a trickle effect. I got that role, I got that role, I got that role. And I felt so empty. And so I had to recall and be honest with myself, and again, isolate, which we're all in right now, and meditate on, why do I feel like this? Why do I not feel so whole? And I had to look at all of the things in my life, the reflection. What is in my outer world that I thought was going to fulfill me? And it hit me. It had to come within me first in order for me to feel whole and fulfilled. So everything in my life on the outer was a reflection of what was in my inner. And that was one of those things where I had to tap into my purpose. And, I grew up in the Philippines, where I was aware of so many different global issues. My mom, who's in this chat right now, will tell you she was a newscaster. So I watched my mother talking about all these different global issues. So I thought, wow, this is my moment where I can give voice to things that I want to give voice about. And that's when I did my research. I came into Chandra's article, and then I volunteered my time. And I did it in silence, because I really wanted to make sure that me volunteering is something that was really from my heart and not from an ego mindset of feeling good about volunteering or giving. And so as I tapped into that, it became, they're my family. It's so beautiful to have that community and experience that oneness with so many people. And that's really what Mentari is about, is that family. We don't look at each other with labels, right? We don't label you as a survivor, me as a volunteer. It's just like, hi, we're all here. And you've been to a lot of our events, like Soul Saturdays. It's just more so coming in together and being a family, and being an authentic family to each other, and having that safe space for people to be vulnerable, for people to ask help, for people to cheer you on and celebrate all your little wins. So then once you have that big win, it's just celebrated that much more.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, that is the one thing with, to thinking you and Chandra, it's amazing. Just meeting the survivors and having spent time repeatedly with them, just to see how wonderful the safe space has been created. I mean, we're going to talk about meditation a little later today, but I have to say, people who are new to meditation and people who have had trauma in the past, it might be a little tough to put it together unguided, but it was just the healing process. And just the ability of the survivors to show they've come back into their being, into their sense of confidence and acceptance of self after everything they've been through is just amazing. So that's yay to Mentari and all your work. But yes, self-love. And
before we begin, I always say intention equals direction. So I just want all of us, as we're all coming in here, to close our outer eye and just take a deep breath, into our stomach area, and then just let it go. One more deep breath, an audible sigh. And one more deep breath. Hold it. An audible sigh. So with intention equals direction. And so I want to create a collective intention at this moment. I want to pull in and call in the divine within each of us. And I want to have this collective intention and purpose for our time together here to activate within and channel information and affirmations from source, higher power, whatever you want to call it, for all of us to reach our highest good as we come into our remembrance of our intrinsic nature, love, joy, peace, abundance, love, 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 love. Whatever the reason you may have come into this moment, whether you know Meta, whether you know me, whether you love JUARA, it is all part one of this unity, consciousness, and community that we are bringing forth at this moment. And so I call this time, and I name it because we can name things. I name this time that we have together as beautiful, as joyous, as unity, as connected. And so as we go forward, that is our collective intention. And I want to take a moment of silence for you to have a personal intention at this moment, because you took this time to be here in the now, to give yourself this time. And that is what self-care and self-love is. And so as we begin, I say I love you and I am grateful for this moment, and so it is. Thank you. Okay, now we can party.
All right. Where would you like to start, Tiffany? You were talking about a couple things like self-love and self-respect. I thought that was fabulous.
Yeah, so really the intention is to shift the beauty, right? The beauty conversation into something more meaningful, mindful awareness and self-love. And part of Mentari's human trafficking survivors empowerment program is we really encourage self-love and embrace, self-care. And I first want to talk about the definition, because I feel like sometimes it gets confused, the difference between self-esteem and self-love. And so the dictionary, for example, definition of self-esteem is confidence in one's own worth or abilities. So it's about self-respect. And self-love is defined as regard for one's own well-being and happiness. And so it means taking care of our own needs and not sacrificing our well-being to please others. Self-love means not settling for less than you deserve. I mean, when you think about that, so many people think self-love is looking in the mirror and saying, yeah, girl, you rock, which is great. That's part of self-esteem, but self-love is deeper. We are our own greatest teachers and experiencers of this life. And so the more we love ourselves, the more love we have to give. And the more love we have to give, the more we give permission for others to give love and to receive love, to give love for themselves. And as a result, it's this trickle effect, right? Which, I mean, look how beautiful. I've seen it. And I think because there's so many people that's on this chat right now that have donated to Mentari for our food drive. And it's so amazing. I've seen it, how grateful people are for just receiving, I don't know, a can of beans, a can of, vegetables. But it's like that vibration of love from just the currency of money, that currency of energy is reciprocated and cycled to giving food. So
we have one question of, just because I think it is so powerful, and you're right, we don't think about it that much, the definition of self-love again versus self-esteem. Like what's the difference?
Awesome. Heather,
Or
thank you
how
for,
did you just explain it?
yeah, this is at least my somewhat sort of definition. Self-love, and again, literally I have like a binder of notes because this is how important the topic of self-love and mindful awareness is, that I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to waste your guys' time either, because self-love is such a beautiful topic that that's calling to be activated within each one of us. So self-love, again, is defined as regard for one's own well-being and happiness. It means taking care of your own needs and not sacrifices your well-being to please others. Simply, self-love means not settling for less than you deserve.
Wow, that's quite deep. And self-esteem, is that kind of more when we think of the whole "you go girl, I'm confident"?
Self-esteem is self-respect. It connects hand in hand. But I think just like self-care is the action of self-love, giving ourselves that warm bath, going for a nature walk, earthing by taking, your sandals off and just feeling the ground, like touching a tree, talking to birds, whatever things that is labeled maybe weird for people. I've done it since I was 4, so I think my whole family has give up on the word weird, and they're just like, that's just her.
So in your own journey, I'm curious, in your own personal life, in your career, how did you come to this place of yeah, I mean, just I guess being an actress and in the industry, like you confront a lot of things. Like, what's your story behind what you've experienced?
And also I want to Yoshiko had said, so self-love doesn't mean that you love everything about yourself, but it's action oriented, that you take care of your well-being. Yes, that is definitely an aspect of it. And, the beauty, the reason why we're doing this is it's also embracing our quarantine shadow self, right? Like when we become best friends with those dark thoughts, we start, taking a step back, and I'm going to go into it more. It's the beauty of taking a step back and thinking, oh, wow, I used to do that ever since I was little, and kind of thinking, why did I do that? And that goes into what I'm going to talk about later, is that, there are experiences from our past that's causing the now. And all of it comes from a cause condition when we're separated from our intrinsic nature. So when we call it back in, we start to realize and not really label like, oh God, I was so bad when I did that, or I'm so good when I think this way. It's all just part of us. And so I always like to say, like, if you're in a dark room, right, and you have a flashlight and you have it in front of you, the closer you go to one wall, the more light it brings, and there's a bigger shadow behind you. And then as you go back, the light starts emanating and the shadow starts getting smaller, because it depends on what you're shining your light on. So the dark and the light is merging and integrating as one, because we are both dark and light, but it's about not judging ourselves, or not judging us judging ourselves, because it's all needed to be this beautiful oneness that we are. And like a lot of people are like, oh, I bet you're always so happy all the time, you meditate all the time. Like, no, that's not. There's times where I'm like, I don't know if I'm hungry or just crabby. Most of the time I'm hungry because I'm always hungry. But there's those times where you have these dark thoughts, and it's about embracing them. And so that's where our belief systems comes in. And I thank you, Meta, for asking me about acting, because acting has been the biggest practice for me to really practice self-love. Because as an actor, you love the art. I love telling, being a part of creation of the story, because I know it's not me, it's whatever gifts that's been embedded, I've been born in, to be able to tell a story. I'm just one part of the whole village that makes a TV show or a movie. So like, what an amazing opportunity to become one with everyone filming the same show or the same movie. But also, ever since I was little, and I'm sure my mom will attest to this, I used to call her so much and be like, and I hate to even say this, I remember when I was a dancer and you would walk in the room, and before you even auditioned, they would divide everyone. And that's called I forgot the term because I haven't danced so long, but they would divide you by race. They would divide you. If you're Asian, you go over here. If you are African American, you go over here. If you are ethnically ambiguous, you go over here, which I always would go to the Asian side because I was born in the Philippines, which is in Asia. And then they'd be like, oh, no, you come to the ethnically ambiguous. So as I had this like vision that when I came to LA, I would just like, all of my hard training would just be exactly all that I needed. But then when I would be typecasted, that's the term, when I would be typecasted, I wouldn't understand it. Like, there were so many ethnically ambiguous people and they only needed one. So I didn't even get to audition. So it shattered me. And then part of that shattered was me having to embrace my belief systems. And and then I wrote it. Part of the belief system is meeting our inner child. I had to realize, wow, like, this is actually triggering so much trauma from my childhood. You know, a lot of people ask me, for example, like, why did you join Mentari, who is, you know, focusing on human trafficking survivors and domestic violence? And a lot of people haven't asked me that question and truly wanted to know. And a huge part of that is I experienced domestic violence when I was little. And so many times people are like, oh, I thought you were just an actor and you needed a charity to talk about. You know, like that's the perception, because that was what the old paradigm was. We're in a new world now where everyone, it's like we are being called to be conscious enough to ask people how they are and really care. To tell people I love you and feel the words versus just saying I love you, you know? And so part of that, and I wrote it, as most of our belief systems and patterns about life and about ourselves are formed by when we were 5 years old. I don't think anyone's 5 years old that's watching this, so that means we've had years of experiences. And so that means we live in the limitations of our 5-year-old consciousness. Like, how crazy is that? And so our work is to break those limitations, and that's, you know, and embrace it in its entirety. So that's what a lot of the things that acting has brought, being in entertainment, has allowed me to see, is like all of my triggers. Am I good enough? I'm not good enough. Who am I to be great? Who am I to book that role that is next to this actor that I've, you know, just been inspired by? Who am I to earn money? Like, all of these things aren't just a part of an entertainment or an actor. These are parts that we all go through. I am enough. I am enough are the 3 strongest words we can ever say to ourselves, because that not enough goodness is always a circulation that we all feel as we expand and we get to different levels of our life. So that's where, you know, the pressure of society. How are you supposed to look like as an actor? Like, how are you supposed to be as a sister, as a wife, as a mother? Like, that was a huge part of what I had to heal. And what a lot of us have to heal is our inner child work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a question that goes perfectly with that. We have a question: how do you continue to love yourself after hearing hateful comments about you?
So this is actually very beautiful, because, you know, that's what I wrote down in my notes, and I can share with you my experiences. So part of it is healing our belief systems, right? We witness without judgment, and we witness our judgment of ourselves without judgment. So I ask myself these questions, and we also do this with Mentari, which I've seen amazing results. Like, literally, I've met some, I don't even like to call them survivors, I call them thrivers. I've met some thrivers where the first time I meet them, they can't look at me in the eye and they look down. And we do some of these self-love exercises, and literally now, like, they are the goofiest and they can't stop talking, and they're just like so full of life, and they can look at you straight in the eye, and it literally makes me cry inside every single time. And I just hug them, and they're like, stop hugging me. You've hugged me like 2 times now in 1 second, but I'm like, I'm just so proud of you. So one of it is journaling, right? That's why I'm asking you guys, and I invite you guys to journal whatever thoughts that come up. So on one side, I used to love doing this because it was like a test in how much I've grown. I used to write all of the things I've ever heard about me, like, I mean, again, I'm sure we're all adults here. Like, you're a bitch. Like, I've heard that from past relationships. simply because I wasn't who they wanted me to be, right? Or I ended a relationship. It was, you're this, you're that, you're not enough, you're too Asian, you're not too Asian, you're too short. And all of society's pressures, you're supposed to weigh this way when you're an actor, you're supposed to look this way when you're an actor. I wrote down on the left side every single thing I've heard about myself. And I didn't judge it, I just wrote it all down. And then on the other side, on the top, so I would name it judgments, right? Because that's what they are. They're all limited judgments and limited beliefs. And then on the other side, I asked, are they true? Is this true? And I went all the way down the list and I was like, no, no, no. And then I started laughing and I'm like, wow, I really feel so bad when people first say these things about me. So until I started asking, is this true? When you start asking yourself, is this true? Then you start to realize like, oh, wow, I'm looking at myself for the first time because this is what's being said. And is this true? No. So it empowers you to realize and connect you with what's actually true. Again, our intrinsic nature, our natural being before, whether you were 5 or younger and all the, all the limited beliefs were poured onto you with adults. I mean, from adults and whoever, caretakers, it's like our intrinsic nature. We are all beautiful. We are all powerful. We are all brilliant. Like, and I started putting those things as well. I did mirror work. So I would look in the mirror and the first few times I would just cry because there's nothing like looking in your eyes because your eyes knows if you're telling the truth to yourself or not. So I started with, I am enough. And it took me weeks. I started with 1. It took me weeks to look in the mirror without crying and saying, I am enough. Over and over again until I believed it. Right? So mirror work, you guys, if you've never done it, literally look in the mirror, something that is, where you're at peace and you feel it's safe. I like to hold my heart space and I just say, I am enough. I am enough. And then once you pass that, you go with, I am brilliant. I am brilliant. And notice how it feels. It feels a little awkward at first because you're like, I don't talk to myself like this all the time. But then as you start to, it empowers you. And then you just walk around and you're like, yeah, I am brilliant. I am creative. Why did I allow so many people to mute myself, right? And so again, we start asking, how did that feel? What came through for me? Was it love? Was it doubt? Was I doubting myself that I'm not enough? And then we start asking, what experience from my past is causing this right now? All of it literally comes from a cause condition when we were separated from the truth, which is our intrinsic nature, love, beauty, magnificent, all these amazing things, abundant. That is who we are at our true nature.
How would you suggest, this is a lot of very powerful things, and I know that it even triggers things in me and a lot of self-doubting thoughts as well, especially when people tell you lots of negative things. Where do you start in the beginning? Like, as a practice, what would you suggest or advise to embark on this practice of freeing yourself?
I think, like I said, mirror work is definitely key. Looking at yourself, because here's the thing, and I will make a bet with anyone. When you start looking at yourself, I dare you to try this, to say the things, looking in your eyes of some of the things that you've heard about yourself. Because just like, I always say, would you ever invite a stranger to your home when they're just talking shit about you the entire time when you're at your house? You'll be like, no. Get the F out. Like, I don't even know you, 1. And 2, why the hell did I invite you here to make me feel like shit? Like, you're not invited. Go out, stranger. Like, that is exactly what our thoughts are. When we separate from those thoughts and we start to notice, like, you can look in the mirror and be like, I am not enough. You won't even believe it. Because again, the answer is this true? And our inner self, our higher self, our soul self, not this like body matrix, right? This avatar I call, our actual soul self knows the truth, and it's connected to something higher, far greater than our limited mindsets as these beautiful humans in this body. So I always say, journal, write all the things that you've ever heard and ask yourself, is this true? That's the one of the best way to start. And then mirror work, because I will tell you, I cried for so long when I literally, for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I don't believe that I am enough. So then that became my compass, my inner compass to work on feeling enough.
Wow. So first would be the mirror work, and that's just looking in the mirror and repeating words. Would you, and just until they feel light, and then you move on? Is that it's that?
Yeah, I say, every single day, right? We're women, whether it's skincare, talk about self-care. My husband was like, you're such a unicorn, it's hilarious. Like, because he hears me, I'll put on my moisturizer and I'm like, I am enough. I I am beautiful, because it's we have so many things throughout our day, whether it's putting your SPF, your moisturizer, whatever, looking in the mirror, just you doing grounding work. So we have all these opportunities throughout our day to remind ourselves of how beautiful we are, how more than enough we are.
Mhm.
And little by little, you have to be patient with yourself. Little by little, it opens up our awareness to really feeling it. At the beginning, and I can attest to this, I was like, I am enough. Oh, no, I'm not. And then I start noticing the stranger that you want to kick out of your house. And you're like, no, get out of here. I am enough. It's like, I always say, would you invite and allow a stranger to go inside your house, have coffee or tea with you, who's just talking all of these bad things about you? No. If you are, email me, because then we have other things to talk about.
So, so we talk so much about like people who, well, at least at JUARA for us, we believe in community, and it's two things. It's supporting other people, but also allowing other people to support ourselves. What are your thoughts on surrounding yourself with people who are going to support you versus just affirm you? You know what I mean? There's some people who are like, they're kind of like your friends, but they're like, yeah, they support everything you do, but they're not really like looking out for you. And then there's people who are like good for you and nourish you and help you cultivate your self-love.
I think, again, like what we said, the more you give yourself love, the more space you allow yourself to give love. And so as a result, you give permission to others to give themselves love and spread love, right? So I remember when I was younger and I was like completely bullied, and literally everyone would just like talk about like exterior things. And this was like in high school when I was part of the dance and arts program, and there was so many things that people in high school, when you're going through adolescence, like you don't even know your hormones, right? You just like hate someone because, I don't know, you hate their hair, who knows? But I always was so nice to everyone, but so I never understood why I thought these people were my friends, right? They were my friends, but they weren't really part of my growth. What they were doing is bullying in a sense. So I became so isolated. Like I just went in. And my reality of what friendship was shattered. I realized it was all an illusion. I was like, wow, people could be your friend, but actually, are they going to be part of your growth? Are they going to hold you accountable and hold you responsible so you can literally spread your wings as a butterfly, right? And I felt like I had no friends. My mom would be like, poor mom. I was like, Mom, I have no friends. Like they're literally all bullying me. And I don't get it, because I thought they were my friends. And my mom always said, continue to give yourself that self-love and continue to become the best that you can be internally. And the right people will come to you and you will form your tribe, your soul tribe. So now I have that. I have my soul tribe. And it continues to expand to my spiritual sister tribes, who are my teachers and masters that have taught me because they've walked it for like 40 years before me. So it could feel very lonely sometimes. And I felt very lonely sometimes. And so as I started to do that mirror work, I realized the best relationship I can have is the relationship with myself, because it taps me and connects me into source, right? Whoever, whatever higher power you believe in, the universe, God, Yeshua, Allah, Buddha, like whoever you look up to, you start to connect with a higher power than yourself. So therefore, you start being okay with being by yourself because you're becoming friends with yourself.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically, I mean, that's such a powerful statement. If you take the time to invest in connecting to yourself, you will become the beacon where the healthy tribe for you will surround you. And likewise, if someone's doing the same, you'll become a part of someone's healthy tribe as well. So,
Exactly. It's kind of one of those things. Like when you're being bullied, it's like someone's hitting you with a bat and you're like, that's not true. That's not true. You know, you're like, God, this is exhausting. Do I even want to be around humans right now? Like everyone feels so mean. Like that's what I felt like when I was like in childhood, when I was being bullied. And it's crazy to think now, like how grateful I am for those moments. Because once you start shifting and thinking that everything is actually for your highest good, if I was never bullied and I never felt alone, I would have never tapped into something bigger, my self-love, my self-worth. Like why was I in back-to-back relationships with people that were not good for me? But it was actually me. Everything that is a reflection. You know, I love Wendy Kennedy's quote that if we try to change the reflection, it doesn't work. We have to change the generator of the frequency where the reality is coming from. So I was in all these relationships that were just toxic. But until I took a step back and someone told me, one of my beautiful friends, Carrie, talk about friends who hold you accountable. She was like, did you ever take a step back and realize that you are actually calling those relationships in? So again, I had to ask myself, what part of my past, my dysfunctional relationship that I was healing with my abusive father, did I call in that now moment? Because it's always from a cause condition. And so once I realized that, I realized, oh, this is the time to not judge myself. And two, like, wow, that's so true. So now it's coming up because that is a part of what I have to heal now. That relationship of all the things that I felt having this father figure that was supposed to be my protector, actually not being the safe space for me. And that's very challenging.
mm-hmm. That's so relates actually to a question that came in, which is sometimes it's really hard to make the differentiation between bullying comments or things that seem like they're bullying versus them actually being useful because they're a part of your growth. How do you distinguish, or how do you approach or view things, or separate comments that are just actually bullying versus, let's say, character building and things that you kind of need to embrace and be okay with because they make you stronger or better, you know?
Right. And so I always say, don't ever say speak when you're angry, you know, and hungry, but both. Don't ever speak things when you're also feeling that hurt. So I've learned, you know, from years, it took me years to actually put this into not only practice, but in embodiment, is to leave the room, right? Again, this is where self-love and self-care is so important, is to leave the room, put on a meditation music, or like, I don't know, I love 111 hertz frequency on YouTube because it's like the just calming. And I allow myself to feel everything. Feel everything. Name all the things you're feeling. I'm angry. I'm sad. I think a lot of the times the biggest thing that we have to also embrace is feeling. Everyone thinks, oh, I can't think like that because I have to be positive. Like, allow yourself to feel like, wow, I'm really freaking feeling negative. Like, I'm feeling anger, and anger is, I'm feeling hate because these people are bullying me and saying mean things that are probably not true. And take a moment to put it all down and then ask yourself, do I believe this about myself? Again, I am here to remind you, your intrinsic nature is beautiful. It's loving, it's abundant. All these other things are just part of the belief system and limitations that we put upon ourselves and also that others project to us. And we have a choice to believe it or not. We are free to have a choice to believe. If someone calls us ugly or not Asian enough in my auditions, I had a choice to be like, am I not Asian enough? You know, and like now it's become a joke, because if someone tells me, oh, you just don't, we really love you, but you're just not Asian enough. Now I've practiced so much self-love to be like, oh, well, then it wasn't meant for me. And I move on. But before I used to cry to be like, how do I become more Asian? Like, it's so dumb, right? But that was the type of the old paradigm before quarantine that we all experienced, not being good enough for something as dumb as not being Asian enough, which how can you not be, right? If that's where you're born. But anyway, it's a different topic. But it's basically just embracing those thoughts, allowing yourself to feel it. And the key is to not stay there. So when someone has told you something like you're not good enough, allow yourself to feel, how does that make me feel? It doesn't feel good. You know why it doesn't feel good is because it's not true. It's not part of our intrinsic nature. You are more than enough. Actually, you are freaking powerful. And it's just waiting to be activated. That's why none of those things are true, because it's not part of our intrinsic nature, our beingness. So as we sit there with our thoughts, we then put in self-love thoughts, right? Like, all these things are not true. So now the key is to put in thoughts that are into harmonious vibration with the feeling of love, because fear, anger is in one side. Love, gratitude is in one side. They cannot exist. It's like a magnet. It's a polar opposite. It's just same thing with a flashlight. It's the shadow and the light. So we have to start looking at things like that. Like, this isn't true. So now I felt it. I don't like it. So now how do I put in, like, what are the things I love about myself? Call in your divineness, like the goddess within you, the king, the queen, whoever's watching this, call it in. Like, what do I love about myself? And it could be something as like, I love that when I wake up in the morning, I just say hi to the birds, or, I just look at trees and I think it's beautiful, or I love that I'm so giving to my friends. Because guess what? The moment you put in on top of that, the feeling of gratitude, also, like, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for the gift of life. Like, right now, we're all grateful to be alive, to be safe in our home. Yes, it's like we've been all inside for however long, but we're all safe at home. So it's like the gift of life. I'm so thankful for this gift of life. And what that does is it opens up so much feeling where it brings in love. Gratitude and love is the highest frequency you can have. So anything or anytime there's that thought, embrace it, say thank you, you may now go, and then, flower the pot, flower the plant so you grow.
So what's interesting is I do agree that there's intrinsic value and in all of us, and that love and loving ourselves is important. It also acknowledging that we are, as human beings, are imperfect. And sometimes when people are saying negative things to us, maybe it's true. And these are a couple of questions that came in, so I'll try to synthesize a few questions that came in and address them both and asking you. There is that space. Loving ourselves, I feel, is like loving our imperfections and knowing that we also should be on a journey to improve, because otherwise you don't want to fall into the whole, I love myself, screw you all because it's great. There's that other extreme that we also don't want to fall into, because then that's when compassion and empathy and ability to be inclusive is lost. So the question is, or several questions is, maybe in asking yourself situation, maybe when somebody says something negative to you, perhaps on that list, it is true. It is a negative thing. And maybe there's things in your life that sort of led you to being that bitch, because sometimes we are. It can be true. We're not all unbitchy. And other things. Or like when somebody criticizes you very sharply, you know, how do you deal with that? If you're criticized sharply, should you take a moment to like breathe and wonder, give space that maybe there is truth to that? Or like when recognizing that of the negative things you've heard that, ooh, this actually is true. What are your thoughts on how to navigate
I think that the battle really is getting our mind right? And it's like the battle is going and tapping into those thoughts that are harmonious with the vibration of like what we desire. But it's so challenging if someone's like, hey, you're this, and you're like, what? And like, even for me, it'll trigger me sometimes, right? And I have to take a step back now to be like, again, is this true? And if I say kind of, so then I explore myself again. What part of this resonates with me? What part of the truth is it saying yes? Like, hey, I think you get really, I don't know, selfish when it comes to food. I don't know. I'm just kidding. You get, selfish when this thing comes up, or you really get defensive when I talk about this. Like for me, for example, I used to get so defensive when someone talked about money. Like, because I had to ask myself, wait, is this true? And the answer was like, kind of. And I had to ask myself, what part, what trigger, what part of my past is it causing this trigger to come up in the now? Because whenever things come up for us, it's for us to heal. And then I had to start also, one thing I want to say is when we start taking the wheels off the labels of like, is this bad of me? Is this good of me? Like when we start taking the labels out of those traits, it's all part of us. And guess what? No matter what, we're all still beautiful human beings who are full of love and light. So it's just a matter of taking all the layers off, taking the veils off, taking all the masks off that society and we have put on ourselves, right? So I had to ask myself, why? Why was I feeling this? What caused condition from my past is coming up that's triggering me? And I realized it's because ever since I was little, it was like that anger from my biological father, because he would always talk about money. And I recalled my younger self being like, you're talking about so much money, yet you like hit your family, or you can't even take care of your family. So I had to become best friends with my inner child to basically hold her and talk to her to be like, that was how you felt then. It is not true now, because my adult self is here for you. This is why all of this is coming up, because I'm here for you. Whenever I would meet someone that would be like, I don't know, that experienced domestic violence, I would just cry. And they'd be like, are you okay? But it triggered me so much because it brought me back. So I had to take a step back and really become truthful with myself. And that's our time now. We're being called to take the masks off. Like good, bad, it's all part of us and it's all beautiful.
Wow, I love that. It's that once you take off the judgment, then it's really the truth of what is, and uncovering and recognize the is the first step in the healing process.
Right. It's the layers of the identity that's peeling off. And once I like started making it a game, I was like, well, this is fun. Now that I'm healing this, I'm just going to make this a fun game, because guess what? There's going to be challenging times, but I may as well make it fun. So I'm like, what can I do? What layer of identity can I peel off next? Because it's all part of our unfolding. And there's so much beauty of the unfolding. I'm sure we can all recall times when we were at that moment where we were like, oh my God, please help me. Like I used to always just pray to God when like something bad happened, like, God, please help me. If you get me through this, like I will be the best student ever. And it wouldn't happen. And I'd be like, why? I prayed so much. But it actually was the exact thing that I needed to go through to grow. So it's like, again, like you said, once we take the label of, God, that was so negative, that person said that to me and it's so bad. Again, this is about self-love. And the more we give our self-love, the more we give permission others to give love. There's been times now where someone can say something so mean and I just straight up look at them and meaning it, be like, I love you. And that's all I'm going to say. Like, I love you, because we have lost, like all of us. That's why like the blessing in this quarantine is that we have all connected back to each other in the most purest, authentic way. We've now realized what community and connection is. We've actually yearned to connect with people more than when we were all outside freely giving each other, because we were just thinking like, oh, I'll call her later, or I'll check on her next week, I'll do this instead. But now we're being called to connect with each other in the most authentic way, just as we're being called to connect with each other in the most authentic way to ourselves as well, like mask off, whatever that song is.
Wow, we got a couple of questions coming in. This is also exciting. No, but these are actually really thoughtful. You had mentioned parental abuse and upbringing and parenting. How do you reinvent your relationship with your parents? What's the best way to forgive, in your opinion? And I guess most future relationship issues probably start there.
Yeah, and again, I want to say this too. It's like we are all free, right? We are all free to make whatever decisions we want to make. We are all literally co-creators of the reality that we want to see in front of us. And, you know, as challenging as it may be, sometimes your relationship, you know, like for example, I can use this as an example, as an experience. I've seen some of my friends or people that are very, very close to me not have the same relationship as I have with my own mom. And it's about being okay that not every relationship is going to be as bonded and as meaningful, because everyone's going through their own growth. So just as we can't judge ourselves, we can't judge others either. And I used to do that with my relationships, literally, like hands down, I was guilty of it. I'd be like, well, if I could just expand their awareness, maybe they can just not be an asshole. I'm kidding. You know, be more forgiving or loving or whatever. But then again, until my own spirit, like teachers had told me, you cannot change people. Just as you can only be responsible for expanding yourself, others have the same freedom. So when we start to just, you know, to come from that mindset of, I'm not here to change you, I'm just here to love you and honor parts of you that I love, and hope that one day that relationship can grow into something a lot bigger or a lot more.
But it takes two, is what you're saying. Every person has a choice and the capacity to meet the other person where they can.
Yes, and that also applies not just like in your parent figure, you know, even for me, right? Like, that was my biological dad. I was like, why are you not creating a safe space? Like, why am I the adult, even though you're the adult? And so it's like, you know, even now, it hurt me for years that he never checked in. He, you know, but then I realized he's free to do whatever he wants. Yes, he was part of birthing, my birthing process. But that does not mean that I have to have that strong relationship with him that I do with my mom, because he's creating his own reality. And if that reality doesn't include a close relationship with me, it's okay. And so the biggest lesson of love that we can learn is forgiving someone and loving someone that doesn't even say sorry or I love you. Because then that means we have so much love that we just want to say, I love you and I hope you're okay. And our relationship isn't what I thought it would be, like a father-daughter, but it's also okay. And, you know, the universe finds a way to have, really, like my stepdad, who I call my dad, like came into our life, and that's my father figure. And, you know, it's given to us, you know, chosen dads, I call them. So it's like, it's kind of connecting and being and having that self-awareness to know that things don't have to be exactly what we thought they were supposed to be, and that things are always to our highest benefit.
Thanks. We got one question. what is the most useful practice for those of us that are conditioned to suppress emotions so we can experience the whole spectrum of emotion?
Well, okay, I want to talk about like because I know it's time here. I want to talk about the modes of meditation because honestly, it's helped me in numerous ways. Like that was an amazing question because that's once we start to connect outside of ourselves and have an inner standing, that's really when we start to heal, right? So I'm going to talk about the three modes of meditation that's so important that I've done for years every single day. Well, the first one is contemplative meditation, which is a book, for example, sacred reading like Rumi, Words of Jesus, Quiet Talks with a Master. You know, whether you're meditating on the Bible, the teachings of Buddha, writings of Lao Tzu, like reciting mantras, all of these things, contemplative meditation, it's basically whatever that resonates and connects with you. And you sit somewhere peacefully and you can read it out loud and focus on the words, the sound, the feeling, the underlying meaning, and the imagery. And you start asking yourself, like, what does it mean for me? So shifting, right? Shifting your mind to something outside of all these thoughts. So it's contemplating, it's expanding you. And then the next one, so, you know, I always usually have a book that I read, is existential meditation. And I think of this as like the Jiminy Cricket inside of us being Pinocchio. It's connecting to our intuition and inner compass with clarity. So for too long, we've been hiding behind all these masks, right? And really, it's because we're afraid to be seen. We're afraid to be seen who we are, like all our weird quirks. Like I wake up every morning, put on like, I don't know, I've been putting on Lovely Day and I just dance and it makes me feel so free. So again, it's about shifting. The whole shifting the conversation is really us shifting. So existential meditation is requiring for us to give up the stories, you know, give up the person who we used to be and give up the person we think we should be. So it puts us in this present moment. It's taking the layers off and it's building our self-awareness. And the goal is to observe our thoughts and have a relationship with that Jiminy Cricket inside of us, Pinocchio. So one of the best things that I always do when like a quick grounding, and we could do it right now, is the 4-7-8. So basically like deep breaths to your, you know, solar plexus here is breathe in deeply to your solar plexus for 4 counts. We hold it for 7 and we audible sigh out for 8. So we could all try that, who wants to do it at home, right? So we practice being centered in a comfortable position and it's 4-7-8. So I'll count you. Just shake it out. Ready, Meta?
Yep, I am ready. Shake it out.
Yep. Take a deep breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Audible sigh. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we do that literally for, like, I do it for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however long. And that's the quickest way to ground you back into, before you start like, is this true? Is this that? Before you start the chatter, get yourself grounded. It's so important, you know, to get yourself grounded and rooted. So then that way, when there's like a wind, you don't just sway everywhere, not knowing you're rooted. So therefore, if something comes up, you may sway a little, but you sway back in, right? It's getting back into our center selves. So that's existential meditation that I love doing, the 4-7-8. And the goal is to build that connection with yourself. And the more you do it, you know, the 4-7-8, you can close your eyes. You just start thinking and asking questions like, who am I? That's the meditation of who am I? And to notice the things that's coming, like the insights. Who am I? I am love. I am beauty. Like bring in, and if you notice that it's going a little bit darker, bring it back and let yourself know, what is the truth? Who am I? And the more, I used to just be able to, like, literally, I could barely sit for 3 minutes and be like, who am I? What? Who am I? But the more and more I built a relationship with myself, the more and more insight and clarity it gave me. So therefore, once all of these projections came in, it was easier to distinguish what was true and what was not.
And on the same, would you say that if you had been suppressing a lot of emotions just by life's paths and, training, maybe not on purpose, it helps create that grounded, safe space that you kind of start unpeeling the layers and you can start exploring more. So I tried just now when we did the 4-7-8, I felt so safe. It was interesting. It was felt this calm, safe space. Would you say that practicing this could actually help you start to be more in touch with your own suppressed emotions?
Absolutely. Because then you start realizing, suppressed emotion is just things that we're choosing to literally, like, let go of. And how can we let go if we're like a boiling pot, right? Like, we have to take the steam off. And how do we take that off? It's by basically grounding ourselves back into a safe space. And by doing, yes, Luz, it's 4-7-8. I think that was a question from Luz. 4-7-8 is, it's just grounding us back. And so many people, there's so many things we cannot control, especially in this world right now. The one thing we can control is our breath. That is our life force, our prana. That is our breath. That's our life. That's our gift. We literally don't even have to think about breathing. This whole time you and I have talking, I've never once thought about my breath until that moment. So it's like when we start practicing this control, the 4-7-8, it's the quickest way to ground us back. And I love it because it's like when I'm, I don't know, in traffic, or when I'm starting to feel anxiety or anxious, it's like I just remind myself, go back to your breath. Go back to your breath.
Wow, thank you. On that time, we're a little bit over, but I think that it was a lot for us to think about, and I'm so grateful and thankful because I love just hearing you speak and share so wholly and thoroughly.
Before we end, I also want to just talk about, like, the next mode, which is spiritual meditation, and the intention is basically for us to wake up from the sleepiness, right? Waking up from the sense of separation, waking up from the sense of separation of who we thought we are versus who we really are. So the other one that I love is the breath of fire, which I have to have everyone do because it's hilarious and it's fun. So basically it's like, imagine a dog panting. It's like, right? So just do it for a second, like, so basically when you're breathing out, your stomach is going in. So it's like, do you see that?
Yes.
So now we're going to do it with our nose. So it's basically goes like this. It's a little, when it's your first time, it's definitely like a workout. But again, it's like, so we're going to do that for just a minute, because this, honestly, if you do it for 3 to 5 minutes, it literally, scientifically, they say it equals to like you running for 1 mile. And it oxygenates, yeah, exactly. We're all at home. It's time to work out. I'm just kidding. It oxygenates your blood, and it's the quickest way to release anxiety. At least for me, I've used this, and it literally purifies, and it's like an energy booster. And so the minute I feel triggered, I like go into my like area where I feel safe and just in solitude and quiet, and I do the breath of fire even for just like 1 to 5 minutes is like amazing. And then, 3 minutes is key. So we're going to do it for 1 minute. All of us, whoever you are at home watching this, all of you, we're going to do it. Ready, Meta?
I am so ready. I'm ready to run a mile with my nose. No.
I am going to time, because, and that's what I do to myself too. Like, I have a timer just so I know. All right, so we're going to do it for 1 minute, and we're going to feel amazing. And like, that's how we're going to leave out of here. Just a bubble of love. Okay, ready? So again, it's pushing out, in, out. Okay, go. going. You're doing amazing. Slow down your breath. If it's challenging, just slow it down. Oh yeah, feel all that energy going through you. Close your eyes. Ten more seconds. An audible sigh. How's that feel?
Oh.
Gives you a little bit of a high, so imagine like 5 minutes. Literally mind-blowing. It makes you realize there's so much more that we can control with our breath. Literally, it wakes us up. And again, this is one of the things that I love before doing like a spiritual meditation, because it connects me into the realization of being oneness with the spirit after. It gets me so grounded. So I hope that felt amazing for you guys at home. If you want to put in the chat if it's your first time doing it.
We'd love to hear how you feel. I know it felt like kind of stars exploding inside of me. It was like an entire universe. It was interesting. It was like exercise, yet clearing, yet light, yet challenging. Wow. So.
Yes. And then also, before we close out, I just want to also let you guys know too, it's like all of these things, it's mind fasting, right? Think of it as mind fasting. Sometimes it's so insightful where you're like, oh my God, I am the universe. And other times you're like, it's cleansing, where you notice patterns that you've been doing for so long and you're like, why did I invite that stranger in my house? Again, it's all us. It's like, why did I ever think that about myself? Or why did I have those patterns? And again, it's all part of us, whether it's insightful, whether it's cleansing. It's like the beauty is just to throw away the labels, and there's so much beauty that unfolds through it. I love that you guys have it's called the breath of fire.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And I love what you're saying about it. At the end of the day, it's the house. It's our house. We decide who comes in it and who doesn't belong in it. And it's our house. And it's our house of self-love. So I want to say thank you so much, Tiffany. That was, gosh, lots of hearts and love. Thank you so much. And
guys, taking this time. I love you. And yeah, Meta, go ahead.
So this will be the close for the JUARA webinar. So and I'll share what's coming up next. So tapping into our senses, next week we continue with another lovely session. Let's wind down together, and it's with Heather Whitman. So this is really a nice chance to sort of enjoy yourself, relax, and have a glass of wine, learn some more about it. And from Heather, it's going to be a fun, great experience. That's all I have to say. Stay tuned to register for that one coming up. And if you do want to present, or if you know someone who has something to say, something of value, something of generosity that they want to contribute, someone who wants to help elevate the greater consciousness of humanity and just bring good, we are happy to connect with you and offer a platform to discuss. Because if we all benefit together, then we collectively benefit as humanity. That's actually part of our bigger mission. Tiffany and I talk about it. It's not just the small game; it's the big game. It's getting us all to a happier, better, more mindful place. So please connect with us. This is Tiffany's. So that is all that we've got for today. Thank you again. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all had a lovely, wonderful evening and feel lighter now.
Yeah, I love you guys, and thank you so much for being here.
And we will see you next time, guys. Bye, everyone.